before us. We were in an executive session to discuss this situation in a very legal manner. We're gonna call the meeting to order shortly, but we really appreciate you being here and for waiting. Thank you.
Have we got everybody online?
Danny, you good to go?
We're ready?
Yep.
Ready to go? Okay, let's call the meeting to order, please. Shelley, can we have roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Madam Chair Tracy Quick,
Here?
Vice Chair Mary Lowry.
Here.
Commissioner Justin Acevedo. Commissioner Art Warren.
Here.
Commissioner Debbie Cox.
Here.
We do have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, so our first item of business is consideration to approve the May 21st, 2025 meeting minutes. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
Motion to approve minutes, May 21st, 2025.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay? Motion approved. Presentation discussing the overview of various compliance classifications of unimproved parcels. Dana, I assume this is you?
I think Jerry's,
Jerry gonna do that one?
Jerry, Madam Chair, the Jerry Barnes is former city engineer.
Yes.
And he was available tonight to just give a quick overview of paving requirements and how they fit into.
Oh, okay, that one looks like item C to me. So is he doing B and C?
Yeah.
What we're doing here?
We approve the minutes
Yeah.
and we're doing the classification.
Yeah, compliance
they're out of
classifications of
order. Okay.
unimproved parcels. So I assume that
Okay.
was Dana.
No, I can do that part.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was thinking it was a different order. So, at the last meeting that we tabled this and came back, someone approached me and shared pictures of, other dirt, undeveloped lots along the 60. And so I thought it'd be helpful to everyone and to the commission, to kind of review what I looked at and just give an overview of kind of the condition of the disposition of those lots. Okay, one of the pictures was of the hillside next to the Social Security office, and that is an example of raw land. It's owned by somebody, but it's never been developed, never been graded. It's just vegetation. All right, and like I say, there is no historic, legal historic, non-conforming use there. Now there's 4 examples that were given of undeveloped land that's graded and waiting to be developed, or developed and then something's been developed, it's been demolished, utilities been removed, and then regraded, but they have no legal non-conforming history to it, no use that would be there. It would be a new use, whatever goes on that. And there was a picture of the lot next to Fry's, the lot next to Wells Fargo, the lot next to the dollar store across from the Fry's gas station, and then the lot across from McDonald's where it's under the billboard over there by Dairy Queen. And so those are all owned land that's been graded, and if someone there's no historic use remaining on there, I'm sorry, no legal non-conforming use remaining on those, so those would have to go under the requirements in the code. Parking lots with granite that are legal non-conforming, and these are places that predate the 1998 zoning changes that we know and that we have now that require on new use, they require asphalt parking lots, and that would be Selena's Restaurant, and that historic previously had the granite, and that's why it's always been a restaurant, and the granite was allowed. Tri-City Furniture Parking, I think it's been there forever, and that has granite that is not in the best shape, but it's still it's roughly granite. It's pretty decomposed on there. And then the CMS Odd Meadow Construction on US 60 also. It's on US 60, but that's been there prior to 1998, and so that is legal non-conforming. So those are the pictures. That's up to 8. There was a picture of Hope Family Care parking lot. That is on Broad Street, and that was approved with granite And that was, I don't know the direct history on that, but it was prior to the Development Services Department restructuring. And if that same project came today, it would not be allowed to have granite. It would have been required to have asphalt. But that was what happened at that point, and we approved it at that point, and that is where we're at on that one. And then there's a picture of the medical center for the lot for the fire station, and that is asphalt of what's remaining there. Very much lost its useful life, and so if that was well, and we know that at some point we will demolish that building, grade that lot, remove the utilities, and then rebuild the fire station, and we will comply with the asphalt requirement. So those are and that goes to the question that everybody's asked, like, well, you know, there are many parcels along the 60 that don't have, you know, that have some type of dirt, and people go and they may pull off, they may park, you know, activity happens, but none of these that I'm aware of are in use and being leased out actually for parking. So I just want to share that. Questions or comments? Okay. Okay. So thank you.
All right. Then we'll go on to item C, presentation by the city engineer regarding the necessity of the asphalt requirement within commercial zoning districts. This can be Paul and Jerry Barnes, please.
Want me to start, Paul?
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Jerry Barnes. I'm actually a consultant for the city of Globe and a tenure as a city engineer at the city of Globe. So I'm here to discuss the code itself, which is 1473, is the surfacing on a new use development property, and you know, the city engineer himself has already made recommendations and so forth, but I want to tell you why. The reasons that we look at what to put down on these parking lots and so forth is quite a few. One is economic development. You know, we look at economic development as the code is adopted to protect new development, and it also, by protecting that, it attracts new development. And also, it sets standards for these developers. One of the things that one of the systems that we set up when we were at Globe, the economic development department set up, and I really was impressed with, was how we bring developers in and go through the process of what needs to be done on the development sites. And knowing what standards are set by the city helps these developers in deciding if they can put their developments in. We also, the other thing on this is we don't penalize, we don't cite existing developers. Like Paul was saying, there's quite a few gravel parking lots and so forth. We don't make these people go and put new parking lots in unless the use changes. This is a new use. It also increases the property value and marketability of these properties. But the biggest thing that the city looks at as far as engineering and from a technical side is safety. So one of the things that we look at is runoff or detention. This particular site is a perfect candidate for runoff because, and that would be through a non-permeable surface, which is, you know, to put it simply, asphalt, concrete, something like that. Something that the water doesn't soak through. The other option, we talked about crushed granite. I don't like decomposed granite because it has too much dust in it, but crushed granite, it has to have a detention area for that site to soak into. So part of that lot would actually have to be towards a detention area. And that would be, all be done through a drainage study that's done through a certified engineer and submitted to the city. But I looked at the site, the best option for this is a asphalt runoff. And it's because, I can talk to this because when I was with ADOT, we put in a huge, grading drain right outside that property. We used to have trouble, there was, curb scuppers in that area. And we took those out and put this huge drainage area. The curb scuppers kept getting plugged up with the sediment and so forth. And we put that, big grading system in. And even though the city, I think John maintains it periodically, takes the gravel and stuff out of it, but, you know, it has a huge storm sewer, with that grading that we're able to get the water away. The optimal way on these sites is to get the water to the storm sewer. You don't want to soak it in unless you have to. Then, also, the erosion and settlement, I'll just lump those together because those two things are on a gravel parking lot are just terrible when it comes to safety because it washes the gravel and so forth down on the road. It's a constant maintenance issue. And, you know, and it's not safe for public or pedestrian. So the other thing is since it's a commercial parking lot and it needs to be ADA compliant, that's hard to do with a gravel parking lot. It is, easier done with a paved parking lot. And then parking delineation with a gravel parking lot or even a crushed granite parking lot, you would have to put in probably some sort of paper system, for delineation lines within the parking areas. And then, of course, like I mentioned, was the traveling public. You know, we have so many cars going up and down. I think there's like 32,000, I believe that's the count there on that road that goes through there every day. And if we get gravel, or even, worst case scenario, and I think John could probably talk to that, but, worst case scenario, that drain absolutely plugged up. The reason we put it in there is because there was a belly of water in there. You know, when those scuppers would plug, there would be 6 to 8 inches of water, which would make a hydroplane happen right in that area, and quite a few accidents. So, then the next thing is, the private or, public, property. Damage for runoff is always considered, for private property. We have to protect the properties around it. We do have properties that we weren't able to put asphalt in because the runoff was so great that it would damage the properties around it. And therefore we had to put some detention and the crush, I think I actually put decompose in that against my better judgment. But anyway, this particular lot is perfect for asphalt because it has a runoff to the storm sewer. They shouldn't have any problems. And this will reduce the accidents. We have better visibility because, especially if you put the decomposed granite or the gravel in there, on top of, water erosion, you're gonna have wind erosion, which causes dust in that area. You don't want dust on US 60. And then, you know, close to my heart, because I'm still the floodplain manager for the city of Globe, this runoff would give you floodplain compliance. We wouldn't have to do the no rise or the Palmer Lomer on this property. I looked at the property right across the street at the bank that we just did the engineering studies on, and I'm confident that this property would not need the engineering studies done. And then, of course, last but not least is reduced cost. Reduced cost from maintenance and reduced resources from both the developer and the city Globe, and ADOT as well, because they keep this road clean as well. So I'll stop there and I'll answer any questions that you have. And thank you.
Why
all the
don't,
information short.
hey Jerry, this is Tracy, why don't, when you say that you don't want water to be able to soak in, why?
Well, in an area like that, you have to have detention on site for the entire site to soak in. So I would have to, look at a drainage study for that area after they had an engineer do it, but, you would have to have enough detention to cover the site. You don't want it running out on the road. So, unless you're controlling it to the storm drains, you can't do that with gravel or decomposed, granite. But the detention area would probably take up, I'm guessing, Tracy, probably a third of that lot. I would have to, I'd have to study it, and they'd have to have what they call a head crest model done on it to show the water drainage and the water flow through that area. And the engineering company would do that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Jerry, so I know that you're very serious about your job, and I, know that you are really looking out for Globe, but I still come back to, with regards to the 1998 codes that we're going back to, so everything that you just said, why wasn't that ever addressed previously? Why wasn't that ever where someone from the city contacted the owner and said, hey, this is not being enforced right now, but we're going to be enforcing it. You need to look at doing this and that. Why has it been 20 years later that now we're having this conversation?
Well, I think, Debbie, that, it's good to see you too. Yeah, I think to answer that is, our economic development and our development staff has really increased over the last 20 years, or even in that case, 40 years. Our code has been updated, to meet, standards that are higher than they were before. I mean, we used to have building permits that were okayed by staff that didn't even have the permission to do that. So we've come full circle, and we've gotten to the point in the city where, we're competing for developments and so forth. And those type of people are not going to come to City of Globe if we're just letting people do whatever they want to do.
I think we're going to lose some people, like Mary said, if we have where we're nothing but turning into some kind of Tempe or Chandler or Scottsdale. There's an individual charm for us with regards to our raw lots and stuff too. Same as with our property. And I get what you're talking about is that over a period of time, we do have to make sure that things do start getting complied with, and you have to start somewhere, which is going to irritate anybody who has to go through this process. But at the same time, there needs to be alternatives for some of this to be thought out with as well. I mean, even we have people who are grandfathered in, they're still not compliant. However, the issue that you're talking about, the drainage and the rocks falling in and ADOT's concerned, that's going to be for every lot that Paul just got through talking about, regardless of whether it's grandfathered in or not. So I want to try and find something that is more of a solution or of a benefit to everybody concerned. And I know you've got a big enough brain to do that for us.
Well, when you go down to, I'll just do dollars and cents here. When you go down to crushed granite, you put crushed granite on this site, and you give up the extra area for detention, you're losing parking spaces. But you're also having to put a geogrid underneath that crushed granite, which holds it in place to keep it from eroding out on the street. Okay? You're nearing the price of asphalt by the time you put it in. I mean, I put it in before in parking lots in bigger cities, and it was pretty comparable. I mean, it wasn't that much less than putting in asphalt, and asphalt has less maintenance. So I realize it's a huge cost, and but I really believe it might be the best solution on this site. But it's a commercial site, and it's new use, and in my opinion, Debbie, it should be upgraded to our current code and our current standards. I believe that, and when I question some of the other sites, I was told that we were not going backwards in enforcing anything as far as citations or so forth. That those sites were, I'm gonna say, maybe not grandfathered, because that's kind of a bad word, but they were,
There was no
they
use
were
change.
existing, let's put it that way.
Okay, thank you, Jerry.
I hope that answered your question.
Close enough.
Art?
Jerry, could you give me just a little more detail on what it takes to prepare for crushed granite when you talk about compaction?
Could you speak up just a little bit, Art? I can barely hear
Okay,
you.
I'm sorry. Apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so just a little more detail on crushed granite and the preparation and the substructure compaction that's required to do it. I know you said that the costs probably come out fairly close, but if you could just maybe elaborate on what that takes.
Well, you have to put in the subgrade about the same, Art. It still requires 8 inches of subgrade material. You have to, 8 inches of base, I'm sorry, 8 inches of pattern underneath. And then it'll take 2 or 3 inches, about 3 inches of crushed granite in a geograte on top, is my experience with the last that I put in. And the geograte probably runs $3 maybe a square foot, something like that. And that's probably installed. And the crushed granite, probably another 2 or 3. And asphalt's probably gonna run 7, I'm guessing. I haven't priced that out in a long time, so don't take me verbatim, but,
Understand, I just,
I just know we did it before, the developer, and this was in Phoenix when I worked for ADOT, but the developer was shocked on how close it came to asphalt.
thank you.
And you still have to have the same curb and gutter to keep so you can, maintain. The biggest thing you're giving up there is property. I mean, you're not gonna be able to develop part of that parking lot because of the detention. You know, if you put something like, if you put something like gravel or crushed granite or even decomposed, which like I told you, I don't like that because it's so dirty. But anyway, if you put any of those down, you have to have detention on the site. You can't just let it run over it. I mean, that would just be poor engineering to let that go. So the object of using that is for it to soak in, and it has to have time to do that. And that's either done through a detention area or a retention area, which means it holds it through a pond or a permanent water structure.
Mary, wasn't there, the lady that was here for the last meeting, she did that report, wasn't she with like an engineering?
The applicant had an
So,
engineer.
Jerry, were you ever furnished a copy of the report that was brought to our attention the last meeting we had? And I'm sorry, I don't remember the lady's name off the top of my head. Yeah, have you had an opportunity to get a copy of that report or review that with what her findings were?
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay.
So, who did that?
Tally Ho Engineering?
Rachel
Rachel
Hansen,
Hansen.
Tally Ho
Oh,
Engineering.
Rachel Hansen. I saw the site, plan that she submitted. I saw the engineer's, comment, city engineer's comment. I read through that. I thought be real honest, I thought he was a little lenient on it. But, I probably would have been a little tougher, but, I think he's gonna allow him to put, 2.5 inches underneath the parking areas and, 3 inches in the drive areas, which is something I probably wouldn't have done. And, yeah, I believe the city's bending over backwards, being real honest, but that's just my personal opinion. I'm not gonna require any kind of engineering study as far as drainage on it, because I've already ran the drainage, across the street. and I'm not gonna require a no-rise certificate from an engineering firm or a flow or which is usually done for FEMA.
Okay, thank you.
I'm capable, and willing to sign off on that with a, non-permeable surface. And I had that discussion with Paul too. He asked me to make sure that it would be compliant for the floodplain, because that area is not only in the floodplain, it's in the floodway. And I know that doesn't make sense, but FEMA hasn't remapped anything, so it still is in the floodway.
No further questions on that? All right, thank you very much, Jerry, we appreciate it.
Jerry, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good to
well-
see you all again.
And you. All right, we're gonna move on to D, continuance of the May 21st, 2025 discussion and possible action on the request for a conditional use permit to allow commercial parking lot in the C3 Central Commercial Zoning District pursuant to zoning code 14-5-12B3C, located at the property address of 990 North Broad Street, assessor parcel number 207-15-118, case number UP-25-02. Dana?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I appreciate you considering time. As you mentioned, this is a continuation from your agenda on the May 21st, 2025, where you did hold the required public hearing for a conditional use permit on this request. So at that meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission did bring up questions regarding the Commission's ability to make modifications that might be contrary or above and beyond what our current zoning ordinance requires. I provided a memo in response and an update to the Commission as well as to the applicant. Also, what was discussed was the applicant had additional information they'd like to provide to continue to provide justification for a continued established use on that property. I think you see my analysis there. Based on the information provided, the city just has no recognizable approval or acknowledgement that that property was being leased for a commercial purpose to park on that property or store trash container or other things that have been occurring over the years. And you have that analysis. I'm happy to dig in or have further discussion on that. And then also, finally, I think we also addressed one other item on that analysis, which were the parking lot improvement requirements, and that Jerry, for the most part, just covered, including fire code with regards to surfacing for their fire apparatus as they take access on private properties, somewhat consistent in the zip code, as well as our building codes that we went ahead and enumerated there in that memorandum to help you understand what the city's codes were that applied. So that said, as it was determined, this city can't, or the Planning and Zoning Commission, City Council, myself, zoning administrator, really don't have the authority to modify adopted codes on an ad hoc basis or in a situational basis. Like for one property owner, not another property owner, or something like that. So the process to do that is through looking at the text amendment and modifying the code so the entire community has the ability, or anybody with property or an interest in that property in the community has the same luxury or ability to take advantage of whatever code modification applies versus just one particular property owner. So in this case, we do recommend the Planning and Zoning Commission approve this conditional use permit as it has been presented to the Commission on May 20th. stipulation that I'd like to add to that request, which is really just a clarification. The application provided, it listed an address, which happens to be the Circle K address. This parcel not being developed has not been assigned an address by the city or tax assessor. So we want to make sure I've added, and I'll share a screen right now, one condition of approval to make sure that's clear. There we go. Right here, this CUP, we got condition number 8. The CUP applies to the parcel identified as assessor parcel number 207, as it's described in the agenda. Number 207-15-118, and not the address listed on the agenda list report. So we just want to make sure that's clear. That could be construed as something related to the Circle K or that property, and make sure that's clear. Alternatively, or in addition, I'll just quickly run through the other conditions remaining in compliance with the CUP and conditions of approval shown in Exhibit A, which is the applicant's site plan attached, and I will share that right now as well, and take you just quickly through that site plan. And you see that, and it basically has these two paved areas. One for that, you can see the cars underneath that I think the adjacent auto body shop has been utilizing or locating cars, trash enclosures, and then these two access points on Blake Street. And this can tie into the existing asphalt on the adjacent Circle K. The lot line is a unique boundary that kind of snakes through that parcel between the Circle K and this property. But the idea here is to tie those two properties, those two asphalt areas in with new asphalt is proposed here, and have a seamless appearance of a parking area for the purpose of having the property owner leasing that property. We would have new landscape frontage along the front, and surfacing on any unimproved or undrivable areas like this landscape area in the middle, and then the screen walls that our ordinance requires as well. So with that, the remaining conditions include are in your staff report. I'd be happy to review those if you'd like, but staff is recommending approval as presented. And I'm happy to respond to any questions you might have.
Can I say something?
In a moment, we'll get to that. I've got, are you on the, fill out one of these? Would you please? So we have record of it? We can do that. Does anyone have any questions for Dana, or we can let these people have a say? Yolanda, why don't you come ahead up and make your statement?
Do we need to open it? Oh, no, that's right, because we're hearing
It's
from
not
the
a public,
applicant,
yeah,
right? Thank
this
you.
is just called
Sorry
a
about that.
public.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so I insist I cannot afford asphalt. That city is more than welcome to do it if they want it. I'll give you permission. Go ahead and do the asphalt. It's not on my budget. If I do the composite granite or the other stuff that he mentioned, the crush, what is the name?
Crushed granite.
Crushed granite is gonna be here in my budget already. So there is no way. He mentioned a lot of times the flood, and we had our 100-year flood and nothing happened to that property. I don't know why he insists. He doesn't need living he doesn't even live here, so he has no clue what happens in Globe. You have to live here. I've been here 35 years. So I know how this town is. And so the city is more than welcome to pave it. I'll give you permission. If they won't pave, I cannot afford it.
If you, I count roughly 21 parking spots there, would you be willing to give up a third of them in order to be able to do the crushed granite or decomposed granite so there could be a retention?
No, I'm not giving my property to nobody, but if,
I'm not giving, no, I mean, you would lose the parking spots for the water to be able to soak in, what's required.
unfortunately, the engineer couldn't come today, but I will have to discuss with her about the parking spaces. But I mean, it's like, you guys, everyone lives in Globe, you know, it barely rains. It barely rains, and it's like, oh, anyone else has a concern about the flood?
No, because
I wish it rains because I love to garden, and it's like, I shouldn't be paying a high water bill every month. So if we have a flood, welcome, but we don't have floods. Globe is full of hills, so the water runs away. So I think they are over exaggerating the flood. There is no need for asphalt, there is no need for pavement, there are options. The engineer clearly said last time, it's gonna be hot, the decomposed granite will hold the water better than asphalt. So there is more chance having a flood with asphalt than with decomposed granite because it's gonna absorb the water. So please consider that. There is no need for
Anyone have any questions for Yolanda?
I would. So the plan that we're seeing on the screen here, that says Tally Ho on it, right? So this was the plan that you worked with your engineer to create, is that correct?
That's correct. This is the engineer that I hired.
And this was for the crushed granite or the composite granite, one or the other, correct? The thing that we learned from the former city engineer is that there has to be a designated area for retention or detention of water, and that's what I'm not seeing on the plan. Do you?
No, it's not there. That's why
Right.
I asked her if she was willing to
Yeah.
give up the parking spots.
Yeah, so do you know why your engineering group didn't look at the city's requirements for retention or detention when they gave you this plan? Because what I'm nervous about is that engineering firm may have given you a little bit of false hope about what was possible, because this plan was never gonna be possible.
She's been working with Dana and she's been emailing Dana, Travis, and Tony. So they are all aware about this. And they told me at the beginning, I need retaining walls, and I say, okay, and then they say there is no need. On the last meeting, they say they don't need retaining walls, and I was like, okay, perfect. But she's been working with Dana on everything, back and forth. He's been marking what he thinks needs to be changed. At one point, I saw the site plan, and it was like with so many red boxes that need to be changed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Get there? No. Oh, yeah,
I think we have to open it for public comment.
Hey, Jerry. Terrible Ted at your service. Good to see you, my man. Thank you for taking my comments.
You're my saver, so tell them.
I can't, there's nothing I can do. The thing before these guys is grant the permit or turn it down. If they grant the permit, you have to meet the conditions. And you just got through telling them, I can't meet the commission. You can't,
Can you
she
speak to
doesn't,
us, please, and
there's
speak to the
not enough
speaker?
money in the world to help her out. It's not possible to take a permit that's granted and do what it requires. It's simply not possible. She can't do it. If it was me, I'd say, here, it's your title. You handle it. And by the way, you can handle Circle K too. So there's nothing to say.
I moved here in 1992. This rule came into effect in 98. The property hasn't changed since I moved here. And there's this fiddling around about grandmothering and grandfathering, which is ridiculous. If something's been for, I don't know what statutory is, 6, 10, 12 years in a certain condition, that's the grandfather clause. I don't know where you find it in law, and I'm not a lawyer. But it seems to me, her property is grandfathered in, and she doesn't need to do anything that the city requires. She needs to do what she needs to do to make it more attractive, to make it better for Circle K. That's her responsibility. But you guys are stepping in the way, making it absolutely impossible. I can't add any more to that. And I've sat for such a long time, listening to engineers talk like old people. You know, old people tend to blather. Engineers seem to take a long time the older they get. And so far, there's nothing been said here that we haven't heard before. And you haven't heard before. So I wish you all good luck. You all bless your heart. I hope somebody comes down and swoops and helps you out. Okay, baby. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Salcido?
Good evening. I'm Maria Salcido. I am a realtor. I sell real estate in the valley, and I sell real estate up here in the corridor. Like, I'm pretty versatile. I'm born and raised here, part of that as well. I think where I kind of have a little bit of a problem, because I have sat on the board of realtors and property rights. So I work on behalf of homeowners, landowners, and different municipalities in order to help them with, you know, really what's going to happen. People move to Globe not to have a Mesa, an AJ, a Tempe. They move here because, you know, it's a simpler time. It works for their families. They love the fact that not everything is concrete, asphalt, and they have more of a love for nature. Now, I am here only because I saw it online, you know, what you guys were going to be talking about today. And I was kind of just wondering, you know, that lot has always been dirt. Like I said, I was born here. So I don't ever, even when Yellow Front was in, okay, back in the day, and we would drive past that convenience store, it's always been dirt. Again, 100-year flood, that is correct. There was no problem there with drainage problems. I know that a lot of properties did have, you know, issues, but that one didn't have any problems. And I really, Yolanda is, you know, she's been a client of mine in the past. So when I noticed it was that, I kind of wanted to know a little bit more what was going on here. But from what I'm seeing, and I have not discussed this with her, but ever since she went into a lease, I believe it was April of this year, there seems to be a little bit of a hiccup, like, okay, we need to now have a conditional, she's not building on the property. She's not gonna do anything as far as enhancing the property in a new development. She's gonna let people park there and put their trash cans there that have been doing that probably for the last who knows how long, but it seems like ever since she went into a lease with them, now everybody kind of has a problem with it. And I also noticed that now that there's a development happening across the street, that seems to kind of take place too, like, oh, well, we want to have something different here as well. We understand that people want to enhance things. We understand the economic development side of things. We understand that people want to have a little bit of a different facade. But again, people don't move here for that. They move here because it's comfortable. It's not uptight. People love each other here. They have that, we're just good old fashioned folks. So for me, I kind of look at it as, you know, property owners, they can't afford it. You know, there's other circumstances probably that Yolanda's going through right now that is not for me to speak about, but she can't afford to do that. So when we look at that and we say, well, we need to have all of this done, that's not gonna work for I wanna say at least 80% of the people in Globe. At least. They cannot afford to do it. With everything else that's going on in the political and the financial side of things in the United States right now, you know, I really look at it as you think that people can afford it, but really they can't from a financial standpoint. And I'm sure she wants to enhance her property and try to help as much as she possibly can. But from just like being a realtor, I mean, I've sat on the boards, I've been at the state, I've done quite a few things. That's kind of unreasonable. I think it's gonna cost her probably about $100,000 after I looked at everything. That's a lot of money. I don't know of really a lot of people that have it, unless they're coming in to redevelop a property, and she's not doing that. She's having them park there and put some trash cans out. So, as I said, I don't think this really came into play until she really signed a lease with people. And then when somebody caught wind that somebody signed a lease with something, now all of a sudden we want to make changes. And now that we're developing next door, now we really want to make changes because we think that they want to do something. So, you know, I think the bank's going in next door now, right? Across the street. So I just think that there needs to be a little bit more of the person who owns property in this town, who pays their taxes, who takes care of the properties, and make sure that they're kept well. You know, that needs to take a little consideration. You know, the voters here need to really be listened to at this point. And I just think that the people who are coming in are kind of stepping over their bounds of some of the requirements that have been taking place. Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl?
I've lived on Blake Street since I was a kid. And I've seen floods come down Blake Street and everything else, but it has never touched that parking lot to where it did any damage or nothing like that. And I feel like that this deal is just, somebody wants it for a parking lot. And that's not right to anybody, whether it's her, any of these people back here. They shouldn't have to go through that at all just because some development's coming in and, oh, we need that property over there. That would help for a good parking lot. And I think that's the only reason why this is going on, is because of that. But I've never seen that lot flooded. But I've seen it flood down Blake Street a lot, but never bothered that parking lot there, even when it was the car lot, Healy's. And that's what I want to say.
Can you do me a favor, please, and state your name, because we didn't get, I'm
Do
not.
what?
State your name for us, Cheryl?
Cheryl Van Cleve.
Van Cleve, okay, I wasn't sure what the last name was. Thank you so much. You can just give it straight. Is it okay if you just give it to me?
Yeah, he can just give.
Yeah, you can just give it
Yeah.
to me.
More info on it than that.
No, that's good enough. State your name when you get up there for us, please.
My name is Rich Moran. The only thing I think that really needs to be addressed is continued use. Because there's paperwork that it's been that, and everybody knows that it's been that for at least 30 years, probably a lot more. But that seems to be where there's some denial of continued use when that's what it is. 'Cause that seems to be what's in the definition that's causing this to have to be done a different way. That's just my opinion, and I'm no lawyer, but that's what it seems like.
Thanks, Rich. Dana, can you maybe address address the continued use? I know that in your memo, you talked about there isn't anything the city sees officially, but all of us have seen it with our own eyes. So how do we justify that this wasn't always a parking lot when in fact we all know it was?
I can, and it's similar to other areas in the community where, you know, trucks park or people park, on vacant lots or vacant areas. We just see a lot of activity. Obviously, people have been cutting through, this site forever. We don't have any record since the automotive, sales left that anybody approved the use of this site, both parcels, as a parking lot. It could be a continued use of an illegal activity of using a vacant parcel of land to park your car on, or drive through or cut through to get to Circle K, auto repair behind to just store cars. You know, it's a vacant lot, and that's what people do on vacant lots in some situations, particularly in a very urban scenario like this. But that doesn't mean it was ever legal, or was ever recognized by the city or approved by anybody. We have no record of that. It's just a lot that grew into this activity. Now, when we began code enforcement over 2 years ago, Yolanda brought to light that she's had a contract with Circle K to let them use it because they were storing trash enclosure and so forth. Well, so as a vacant lot, you're not allowed to just go put a trash enclosure or a trash can serving an adjacent business on the site without a principal use. So the reason why this came forward is that to establish a principal use, so she can continue to use it as it's been illegally used or not recognized by the city, she needs to get a use permit. We've got a code in place. That was in place since 1998. That's the nature of it. And I know it discontinued for a period even recently. I think things didn't work out. For some reason, she didn't have a contract with Circle K, but yeah, that's how it's been. So I think any improvement you see on that lot, you know, was probably likely occurred at the time of this being a auto repair, but no other use has ever been proposed. There's no property taxes being paid. This is recognized by the tax assessor as a vacant lot. It's not assessed for business or for shared parking or this, you know, the activity that's been happening on here that has been in violation. So that's why I can't determine that this is a continued use. If you did, every lot that people have been parking on throughout the community could have that same argument. Though no evidence made, you know, that the city recognized it or approved it in any way, shape, or form, or said, yeah, we understand you're doing that, go right ahead. We just don't have that evidence, and that would set quite a precedence, like I said, for many other parcels and properties behind a lot of our businesses, particularly on US 60, that just continue to use it, park, use it as you wish. And then this is a good image of just that debris and why, you know, this is in the 8-hour right away. This is, you know, not an ideal scenario where you have effectively property just deteriorating into the city right away. That is that unsafe component that Jerry referenced. And then we talk about the material. That material is coming out and it's filling up this grate. And that is a maintenance issue that requires the city to go out and clean. So if you want to use the property, please improve it like our code is designed. And that's the use permit that you have before you. I just can't stretch, as a zoning administrator, stretch the idea that this is just a continued use and this can continue, you know, this should just continue. We don't have any evidence that it's ever been an approved use. It's just, I think it was a convenience situation. So that's hopefully, you know, response to your questions. But, you know, as a continued use, it would probably continue, yeah, relatively indefinitely. And it is in the floodplain, so it is a difficult parcel to develop. But, you know, at some point, something will occur there. Maybe not in our lifetime, but yeah, that's
Dana, just to classify, she pays taxes, property taxes, it's just not under a specific zoning or something?
Well, I just know the tax assessor has this classified as vacant land. And so the Circle K will be commercial.
Right.
It's taxed as a commercial, business.
Probably taxes on developed land.
This is, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have an address.
Okay, so we have various problems with the asphalt. My personal one is that it's not kind to the earth. Her problem is the expense, although everyone, I've heard now a couple different times that it really isn't gonna be that much cheaper to try to do like the crushed granite or something along that line. But would it be possible, because we're held to the code. The code says it has to be asphalt, so we unfortunately can't just say, sorry, it's not gonna be that. So if we vote in favor, it's gonna be for the asphalt. But can we get the staff to work toward looking at other alternatives that would be kinder to the earth and maybe not as expensive, that would still meet the standards that need to for safety, like Jerry, for engineering safety and so on? Can we work toward maybe modifying the code, what's called a text amendment, to modify the code so it isn't so stringent that everything's gotta be asphalt, that there's no options and that's all there is to it?
Yes, Madam Chair, I think, what I hear you saying is yourself, and if the commission's interested as well, you'd like to direct staff to look at some alternative, language and more, pure community-related kind of codes that address, provide some alternatives to strictly asphalt paving in certain scenarios or situations. And yes, staff would be happy to come back with a presentation and provide a discussion and language and research to look at.
So that if we were to go ahead and, if we were to go ahead and vote today and approve this as is, CUP as is, then if you came up with alternatives and there was an amendment to the, like the codes that right now require asphalt, nothing but asphalt, then she could come back and request to modify it? Because it's not like she's gonna suddenly tomorrow start tearing this up and developing it, it's probably gonna take months.
Correct. The city did do a text amendment, and obviously there's a process involved with initiating that, and then with the public hearing, the public notification, and then the Planning and Zoning Commission makes a recommendation to City Council. City Council approves the amendment to an ordinance to amend the text of the zoning code. And in doing that, and if that text changed and expanded, there are more, I think, dynamic codes out there that we'll probably look at, that if should something like that be adopted and by our code, any property owner, including this Yolanda, could have immediate advantage to take advantage of that new language and new requirements or allowances for the improvement of that property without coming back to you. If it's the code, we would just need to make sure it complies with that, whatever improvement she did propose would comply with that code. We do know, I think what you mentioned also, curb is mandatory, right, to keep what we're looking at here from entering in the right of way and causing that life safety issue and maintenance issue for city and our floodway and flood control structures there. So obviously those things don't change, but that surfacing component, I think, as long as the plans are developing, that shouldn't be a big change to plans once she has those full civil drawings prepared and approvable by the city. And I would suspect that would take a few months, about similar timing for a text amendment.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions or comments? You can get back up if you have something, sure.
My name's Maria Salcedo, I'm just going back up. If you only want asphalt, is there any way that, see, because I, to be honest with you, I don't really think it's really the asphalt cost. It's gonna be the engineering cost that's gonna cost a lot of money on that. So really, when the new drainage system, because you look at the drainage that's here on Blake, that's really the drainage, and they're saying it's getting whatever is happening there, correct? But your drainage system that's gonna go in there is what's gonna cost the money. All of that is gonna take place. So I mean, in reality, the asphalt's of course gonna cost quite a bit of money. I mean, maybe if the concrete's gonna be a lot of money, we know that. At least I know that. And I know that the crushed granite's gonna be expensive, just like the actual asphalt. But maybe a refurbished tailing of the asphalt, you know how you have like the regenerated asphalt type of thing?
That's actually what I'm kind of asking to do.
Right.
Come back and give us options, so.
On that, well, what I'm saying is maybe that could be a little bit easier for her, but I don't even think that's really gonna be the cost piece. I think it's gonna be the actual coming in and putting in a whole new drainage system for you. That's gonna be the part that's gonna be extremely expensive for her. So I think we need to look at that cost, because that doing the engineering, getting all of that done is gonna be what's really extremely expensive. Just doing this work before, knowing that that is the big cost that you're gonna have. It's not really gonna be, you're gonna have, obviously the asphalt's gonna be expensive, but really your drainage system and your reconfiguring of how you're gonna do that part there is what's gonna be very expensive for her. So if he could consider that and figure out a different way, that would be probably the more ideal thing, along with maybe the asphalt piece. So, thank you.
Can I ask our staff if we are required, so that, from what I understand so far, is we're not requiring a full G&D process for this lot at the moment. So including new gradient drainage elements on this, besides just getting a grade and correct grade.
If I could step, but yeah, I think it's that little more floodway analysis being in the floodway. Obviously, there's a higher level of drainage report detail that could be required. Yeah, but definitely curb elevation, right? The fundamentals of any parking paving approval. You need to see elevations. How is that water entering the right of way? We do want to get it off the site and into that grade without a bunch of
Dana,
material in it.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt.
For your-
I'm having trouble hearing you. We just need a quiet room if that's all right. Thank you, everyone. Dana, could you pick that back up for me?
I'm sorry, sometimes this headset drops, or let me know if that's a problem.
No, you're fine. Please continue.
Okay, yeah, so I think the reference to the flood, so it's in a floodway, right? There's very strict regulations of what can be done in a floodway. That is what Jerry's referencing might not necessarily need to occur. That's a very expensive process, detailed design, or detailed analysis. We're just looking for curb gutter elevations and all your typical, parking lot improvements that any other paved parking lot in the city went through when they did their improvements.
Yeah, and Jerry did.
Right, to control that landscape material, to direct that water, to keep from ponding on the property, from having other issues and failure of the asphalt and mosquito issues, things like that. Yeah, and really to keep that landscape in the landscape area, the water flowing to the correct drainage structures that are in that right of way. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. Yeah, that one caught me off guard. I was like, wait, do we have something in here that's requiring like a new drainage system that's connecting us back over the other side of the street? That's what I thought. Just trying to change our existing.
Right, and that current plan that you saw, it is showing elevations and getting there, but obviously there's a top of curve, bottom of curve, there's detail. And a two-line curve location, show that apron and all, all those customary items, how we're tying into that existing asphalt or lack thereof. The sidewalk ramp, you can see obviously this is not a very, in this image at least, clean sidewalk. So we want to make sure that's more presented. In that scenario, you don't need those bollards, right? We can remove those. Those bollards are probably from what, the 60s, 50s. But once you have curb and gutter, then we don't have the concern of cars entering portions of property that they shouldn't. The only reason those bollards are there is because people will probably just come flying right in and out of that, off the 60 onto the dirt. And, yeah, I've seen that stop sign go down before, actually. But anyway, yeah, so it just, clean it up as a modern improvement that ADOT would expect on their frontage. Yeah, that's the goal, and that's why that's why the code's been that way, I think, since '98. That's the anticipation, at least we're not familiar with what exactly was in place prior to that.
And Jerry, can I ask you something real quick, just to clarify?
The plans that I got from Rachel, from Tally Ho, I could easily take those and show the runoff. And I was okay with that, but if we change the plans for something else, we'll have to look at a drainage study and possibly even a no-rise certificate on that. Because it's gonna require some detention that I don't do. It'll come from an engineering company.
Hey, Jerry, the commissioner has a question.
Well, yeah, actually, just kind of answered. I was just saying, because I thought you said in your presentation that you were able to use the studies that were done across the street at the WAFED lot, and so that we weren't requiring.
They were asphalt runoff. That's what it was.
So that only applied to asphalt, correct?
Yeah, so I'm able to use the runoff calculations, and that was fairly easily done. But the detention is gonna require a whole different engineering study, or they call it a headcrest model, that'll show the flow through that area. And what I do is I take the results from that, the data from that, and then I analyze that.
So is that a requirement or it's not a requirement? I'm still not following.
Well, he was saying that if it's asphalt, she wouldn't need the engineering study because he's already done it right across the street.
Okay.
If it gets changed to anything else, then there has to be an engineering study, because now you're dealing with the retention or detention for the water runoff.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at.
Thank you.
And I think that would be a part of a discussion and text amendment too, when you're looking at, okay, we're talking about alternative materials, what is that? Or how does that affect drainage, and something to explore there.
Yeah, we'd have to see a site plan of what they proposed before we even know what they needed. But Paul asked me to run this with minimal engineering, so that's what I did.
And like I said, it's something we could explore. Typically, permeable surfaces are gonna put less water in the roadway, but again, we'll explore that with Jerry and our engineering staff and through those discussions and text amendment.
Less water if you have the proper drainage and detention.
And there are landscape areas here that I think, we could probably work in some level of retention. And that happens to be one of your water harvesting, one of your recent presentations that you received from a grant on low water use and landscaping. Trying to channel more water into landscape areas to reduce the need for potable water to irrigate. So the landscape areas you see here will have the landscaping, plant material, and the ground cover. And you're able to depress those to capture some water.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I ask a real quick question?
Sure.
Dana, I probably missed the detail, but the storm drainage would run to the current existing drainage grate? Is that where it would go, or does it?
Correct. You see the arrows on the screen here?
Yep.
It's directing all that water into the lake. Getting up, she'll probably pass. So we have to see the swales and the design through this landscaped area, how that's gonna occur. But yeah, that would go in, probably store an amount, in the landscape and then overflow into the, through curb depressions or scuppers. Similar, Hill Street School did this actually, and they captured it into their landscape islands that they put it in the roadways. But we were really trying to get that water in here as clean as possible, filtered as clean as possible to avoid that sedimentation that we're experiencing in that drainage structure. And then that outlets into the wash across the highway. Into the
Okay.
concrete.
Thank you.
Problem is we're getting material and they have to go in there and pull all that out every year, let alone the material and the issue of the safety of the material on the roadway at the intersections.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So, Madam Chair, I'm happy to pull up the conditions of approval. Obviously, further discussion on our surfacing requirements has been directed to staff. We will bring that back to you. Probably, we'll look at your first meeting in July, but we'll work with everybody else in engineering and schedules.
So if we take a vote right now and we all vote in favor of this, even though we're not all 100% thrilled about the asphalt, the staff's gonna do a review here, then if things change, then she doesn't have to come back to us. If we vote no, what happens?
If you vote no, she has the ability to appeal to the city council.
Okay. So.
With the written request to the city clerk.
Okay.
And she could do that with your approval, I think, as well. But
I think I want to ask a quick question on that, just so it's clear to everybody in the room, make sure I understand this as well. Kind of what our executive session was on was what are the roles and responsibilities of this commission, staff, and council. But essentially, it's because this is within city code at the moment, everybody's hands are tied. I think it might be the easiest, most layman's way to say it, right? That asphalt is our sole material at the moment for this type of facility because that is what city code states. And until we change that, this is it.
I think that has it in a nutshell, Justin.
Okay.
Good summary.
I just want to make sure that way, because I also don't want to maybe potentially give some hope that if this got appealed to council, it may change the outcome at the moment. And I promise I've been spending a lot of time on this for everybody that's in the room, trying to find the best, most efficient way to move through this model of how this functions, because we don't all do this every day. And so we're trying to find the best way to make this work for our community, not just, again, copy and pasting something that somebody else is doing somewhere else. So I think that's why this may be their best course of action at the moment, is to accept this plan as it is today and try to move full steam ahead as quickly as possible with looking at alternative paving methodologies and potential outcomes with also having alternative paving methodologies. Like Jerry was talking about, it may require some additional studies if we do go that route, but because that would both benefit this site and anybody else in the city that's dealing with the same type of issues potentially now and in the future.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, this is the city attorney. Could I have a quick comment?
Please. Please do.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, we can hear you.
The comment about your hands are tied. Yes, you are subject to the requirements of the zoning code, which, because of the nature of this request, you have to require asphalt. And I understand you're gonna ask staff to look at alternatives. But having said that, it doesn't mean the staff has been inflexible. Staff has figured out a way to try to address some of the applicant's concerns. For example, only requiring 3 inches of asphalt versus the mag requirement of 5. Not requiring on-site retention. Not requiring a concrete pad, and not requiring a new drainage study. The point being, staff has tried to address the concerns, but yes, you are subject to the current zoning code. The current zoning code limits your discretion to asphalt. You have concerns about how that applies to your community, and you've asked staff to come back with recommendations about other alternatives and about a possible text amendment in a way that could be implemented with no guarantees to the applicant that in fact the public will agree, the public opinion will agree, or that the city council will agree. But if the code is changed, then that could be available to the applicant, but there's no assurances.
Very good.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. If there's no further questions, do I have a motion? You have?
I have something to say.
Sure. Could you state your name, please?
Yes, Melissa Martinez. I've been raised here and born here. And my concern is when they talk about the bank next door and that area right there where the water's gonna run, Yolanda's property and the bank's gonna share that, correct? To let that water, where you guys are talking about, where it says,
Drainage across the
Yeah.
lake? Yes.
okay, so therefore, if they have the engineer right next door at that bank, then why can't they help Yolanda out at the same time? Because they're working right next door. They're gonna share the same thing. I know there's codes, but Yolanda has cancer, and we're supposed to be a community that's supposed to be caring and making sure that things get done the right way in town, not pick and choose to who you wanna do. And therefore, with this person that comes and says she has cancer, and these people are up here, this Jerry doesn't even live here, and we live here, and knowing how this water runs, how this dust picks up, where it's coming from, we could tell more to Jerry as a community than him getting on there and say, well, this is how this should be done, and this is how Phoenix is done. Well, we don't live in Phoenix, we live in a small town. We live in a small community. When we live in a small community, what's the word community if we're not doing nothing for anybody like Yolanda? Or anybody else that needs help? Why can't we go and get petitions? You guys said that you couldn't find nothing. Why can't we go get petitions for her? For these people that have lived here all these years? Get signatures. Get what you guys need for this lady to be in peace so she can live her life. Yes, I understand that's her property. Yes, she has to keep it cold up. But on the other hand, you're letting someone that comes in from Phoenix
All right.
and say something.
Please don't keep attacking him personally. That's not necessary.
But therefore, you know, it doesn't matter. Phoenix, California, we're a community. We're supposed to stick together, not let someone else come in and say this is how it's going to be, knowing that all this has been there. 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. I was a kid growing up, and we used to take that bus stop right down there. When you guys say about the concrete right there, you're going to do the same thing to the bank, what you're going to do to Circle K. Why can't we meet as a community for Yolanda and the bank, because people are going to bank there, and work together to do this? Instead of harping and saying, well, this is how much Yolanda has to come up, and this is what she's going to have to do, when this lady doesn't have that kind of money. Why can't we go GoFundMe if we have to? So she can do something, so she can get the money if she has to. But on the other hand, where's the community? When, you know, when you talk about community and City of Globe, I used to work for the City of Globe a long time ago. So therefore, it's like, when I was here, I don't remember all this. But now it's like people that come in and say something, and we're a small community, and all these people are telling you what they've been through and how they live their lives. Therefore, we should do something as a community for her. You know, not pick and choose, just do it together so we can have a small, nice town to live and say this is Globe, Arizona, and put comments in there and say this is what we've done for this person that had cancer or whatever else or anybody else that needs anything like that. That's a community. But therefore, that's just not right, because if we're gonna share that kind of property with the bank and Circle K, and they're right there, not too far away. And when about the water running, I'm sure we can do something about that. But all these years that I've been alive here, I've never seen nothing happen like what he was saying at all. And I'm sure that I could get a petition and people are gonna put their signature and say that they didn't see that either. So therefore, we're gonna have more petition, more people saying how they lived here, what happened here. You know, older than
probably anybody else in this room that can tell the stories. So, you know, it should be grandfathered in so we can help Yolanda and help the community. So we can work together and not be at each other's neck and say, well, this is the amount of money you have to come up, and this is what we have to do. I understand there's guidelines, don't get me wrong. But let's do as a community and work together so we can make this town better than what it is now. All right, thank you.
I have a statement. I understand that everybody's going through crisis with regards to this and trying to help her, okay? But I have to tell you that with the conversations that we've had, this is one of the most considerate group of commissioners that I have ever seen in the city of Globe. There's not anything that you're saying that we don't attempt to bring up or to ask questions about or to get information about. We are attempting to assist the best we can and still stay within the codes, which everybody has rules and regulations, whether you have a job, whether you're working for the city, whether you're a realtor, okay? We all have responsibilities and rules and regulations we have to follow. So I would appreciate that we are trying to attempt to find ways to address this. It is not an easy situation, it is not an easy solution, it's not a guarantee for her. But what it is that this council that's sitting up here right now for your commissioners are attempting to find alternative ways and to help the community, because every single one of us feel that this is a vital community and we all love this community and we all live here. So please keep that in mind as we're going through the frustration factors that are gonna be coming up, okay? That's all I'm asking. Thank
Well,
you.
and I would say nothing is stopping the community from helping her do GoFunding and doing all that. That's totally, completely removed from what we're doing here. We're doing exactly what she said, trying to do the best we can. And our options are very limited in this, and so we are trying to put the option up there. When, if we say yes on this, then the staff study will go on. Then there could potentially be other alternatives. But and if we say no, then you can take it to the council, but the council's like at the same point as us. The code says this. So the community can go and help and raise and fundraise and do whatever they want to do, and that'd be awesome. Because you're right, it is a great community. And you never know. You may suddenly say, I got enough money to pave it if people went in and helped. Personally, I don't want it to be paved because I don't like pavement, but that's my own personal opinion. So we're getting ready to take a vote on this. No one's gonna be 100% happy, but it isn't because we're not doing the best we can with what we're given to work with. And we have asked staff to work toward other alternatives, and that's the best we can offer, and then there's no guarantees that anything will change.
Dana, can you scroll down a little bit? I don't know if you added an 8th condition or not.
Yeah, it was the.
Okay, great. All right, could you scroll back up again? Thank you.
Go for it.
I motion to approve case UP-25-02, conditional use permit to allow commercial parking lot in the C3 Central Commercial Zoning District at assessor parcel number 207-15-118 with the following 8 conditions as outlined by staff.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion approved. Okay, do we have any future agenda items or scheduling of meetings? Shelley?
No, the July meeting, needs to be scheduled.
Okay.
And with the testimony.
All right, so let me tell you.
And Dana said he's gonna try and get us some stuff by the July meeting?
Yes,
I will just,
Looking at the
hang on one
calendar,
second.
June the second's probably tough week for everybody given the holiday.
Yeah, and I'm gone the 9th through the 16th.
I don't have
We
any.
can do a special 17th, I think.
Actually, you know what, I take that back, the 9th through the 15th, so I would be here on Wednesday the 16th.
16th or 17th?
No, Wednesday the
16th would
sixteenth.
be regular.
Yeah, that would be rare Wednesday, so I will actually be here, so July 16th, but I'll be gone the 9th through the 15th.
Dana,
Upstate vacation, visiting some relatives in the Midwest, but I can probably still hop on via phone, so if it works for somebody else, we'll make it work.
Dana, we have staff that's, key staff that will be gone that week. If we can ask to push that back.
We could send out, try and find a irregular date
Okay.
in July.
Yeah, the
If that's okay.
23rd and the 30th are both, Wednesdays, so, and they would be open for me.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's see here. I'm available.
Oh, now Mary's not gonna be here the 23rd, so now we're.
I mean,
the
you can do,
30th.
but you can do it without me. I mean, I would like to be here, but.
What's the
Well,
30th?
If we lose anyone else, we don't have quorum.
30 would be great.
30th?
It sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like that might be the soonest.
Dana, what does 30th look like for you?
I'm available. My vacations are done for the year.
Okay, so it looks like the 30th right now tentatively would be our next meeting. Okay, on my calendar. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
To adjourn?
A second? I got a motion and a second, I think, to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Meeting's closed.
Jerry, thank you.